Okay, so welcome to today's webinar. Today we are talking about securing your business with ISO 27001 and Cyber Essentials. So we're going to talk you through all about that today. Today we are joined with Peter and with Chris, so I'm just going to get them to introduce themselves just now. So Peter first.
Yeah, thanks, Flora. So my name's Peter Johnston. I'm one of the ISO consultants with Citation ISO certification. I've been with the company just 2 years now, and I'm one of the tech specialists for 27001. Been working with ISO now for, gosh, I worked it out the other day ready for this webinar. It's actually just over 27 years now that I've been working with ISO, and specifically with 27001 since about 11 years ago now. So 11 years on a day-to-day basis for 27001. So hopefully I've learned a few things over the years that we can pass on to the guys today.
Fabulous. Thanks, Peter. And Chris.
Thanks, Flora. So my name's Chris. I've been with the business 5 years now. So I actually work across the full group. So I'm the lead business development inside manager. So I deal with a lot of the setup and management of the ISO certifications and the Cyber Essentials packages across all of our group clients. Nowhere near as long as Peter doing it, but certainly learned a fair bit in the last 5 years that I can help with today and help work out kind of where we go moving forward for everyone individually.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Chris. And I'm Flora, and I'm just going to be in the background today, making sure it's all happening and all working and looking out for all your questions and things, guys. So please, as I say, please don't hesitate to pop them into the chat box. Chris, do you want to explain just a bit more about who we are?
Yeah. So as a group, we are basically a complete support solutions provider, and in the main, we provide absolutely everything that you guys could need from a cybersecurity perspective and an ISO certification perspective. Main thing we're looking at today is obviously the 27001 Cyber Basic and Cyber Plus. So overall, we have provided over 30,000 management systems and successfully implemented. We've got 60 plus consultants nationwide, most of them nowhere near as good looking as Peter, but they're still all very, very, very good. And we have spent 30 years in the business of providing tailored management systems to businesses just like yours every day.
Fabulous, thank you. And what we're going to talk about today then, guys, is the cyber threat landscape of 2024. Cybersecurity fundamentals for your businesses, an introduction to ISO 27001 and Cyber Essentials, the benefits of cybersecurity certification, and our top tips with becoming certified as well. So that gives you an idea as to what we're going to be talking about today. As we go through, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions as well. So I think we'll go with the first one initially about what is the current priority level of cybersecurity in your organization? So is it high, medium, low, or unsure? If you can just pop in a response to that, that would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. And then we'll get moved on. And now I can see a few people have joined us as well. So welcome for those of you that have just joined us. If I can ask you as we're going through, if you just pop any questions or queries you've got into the chat box, that would be really helpful. And we will pick those up as we go. And we've also got an opportunity at the end as well to ask the questions. So please do add any questions that you want brought up in there, and I'll keep an eye on that as we go. Okay, so the leading one there is high, 58% of you is your current priority level of cybersecurity in your organisation. So I'll just share that there. So 58% is high, 29% medium, 4% low, and 8% unsure. So there we go. Now we're going to move on, and the threat landscape, I'm going to hand over and let you guys take the reins from here. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Okay, so look, I think when it comes to things like this, it's really important to kind of try and slow down a little bit, take a little bit of a thought process over the internal and external benefits and drawbacks when it comes to things like cybersecurity. Like, none of us can go more than 24 hours now. And if somebody proves me wrong, I'll be very surprised. None of us can go more than 24 hours now without seeing something in the news or in the media about a cyber threat, phishing attack, money lost here, money lost there. And some of these stats just back that up a little bit. So 84% of attacks are breaches as a result of phishing. Whether everybody actually knows what phishing means yet or not is immaterial. It's just something that can happen in the business that can cause a lot of damage. Okay, but I'll be honest and tell you, I didn't know what phishing was until I started in the ISO world. So it's fine if you don't know what that is. But it can take a business on average 277 days to identify and contain a breach. Do you imagine any problem in your business, whether it's within operations, whether it's in manufacturing, whether you're a care organization, whatever it might be? Do you imagine having a problem inbuilt into the business for 277 days without a fix for it, and how much damage that can do? Average cost of a breach can be around £10,830 for medium-sized businesses, and that's not including any fines or any aftermath from that. 50% of UK businesses have reported having experienced an attack or a breach in the last 12 months. 7.78 million incidents of cybercrime of all types across the UK businesses in 2023, and only 11% of businesses report actually reviewing the risks posed by their immediate suppliers. So when I said at the start there, it's important to kind of slow down, take a wee step back. The whole point of today is to get everybody into a place where you can see what the internal and external benefits of having the right processes, procedures, and protocols in place. The ISO 27001, Cyber Basic, Cyber Plus, they make a massive, massive difference to your business externally for things like tendering for work, PQQs, all types of kind of publicity and money-making sides of things. But the biggest and most important part is starting to directly make sure that as a business, you're protecting yourselves, your people, and your customers. You want to move on, Flora? So I'll hand over to the lovely Peter for this part.
Cheers, Chris. Thanks. As Chris just said, the threat landscape there, is quite worrying when we first hear about this. And rightly say, every time you turn the news on, every time you pick a paper up, every time you go on social media, you hear about something happening. So we wanted to just take a couple of minutes to look at some of the things. Where do the threats come from? So the first one I've identified there, home working. Going back pre-2020, not that many people worked from home, but since COVID, a lot of people worked from home during that period, and a lot of people have continued to work from home during that period. The threats with regards to home working are sometimes quite obvious. Things like people accessing via their own Wi-Fi are obvious things that we can see. But actually, home working has lots of other potential threats as well. Things like shared equipment. Is somebody using their laptop or their iPad to work from home and then letting their kids or their friends or their relatives use it at the weekend? You've also got shared spaces. Some people live in shared accommodation, so they may be sharing spaces, maybe sat at a kitchen where other people have access to and they're on their computer working away. And also physical security. I don't know about you, but if we think about how much money we probably spend on security at an office for things like locks, window locks, security, CCTV, everything else, we don't spend anywhere near the same we do for home. But yeah, actually, if everyone's working from home, we've got the same risks from a physical security point of view as well. So it is one of the biggest threats that we're seeing, is home working. The second one, Chris mentioned it very briefly there, phishing emails. They are literally what they say on the tin. Phishing is where somebody goes out and fishes for you. So they go out there, they pretend they're somebody else, and they try and hook you in. And that's why it's called a phishing email. They're quite often direct. It's where you see things like, in fact, I had one the other day from a provider where I buy food from. It actually sent an urgent email telling me that one of the products that was contained in this week's delivery, I needed to send back immediately because there was a health risk with it. And I must admit, I came very close myself to even clicking on it when it came through at 11:30 at night on the day when I'd had my delivery. But they can be direct. Unfortunately, AI has made these a lot easier for them. They can now make them look a lot more professional. The days of them coming through in broken English and quite clearly not correct. AI has made things a lot easier for them now. So we are seeing a lot more phishing. And the third one, stress budgets. If we can't afford the right security, unfortunately, it is something that often gets chopped. People think that it's more important to have, you know, the latest manufacturing equipment or the latest materials or workloads, and actually security can often be pushed to the back of the budget, whereas what Chris just mentioned about the costs, God forbid it ever does happen to you, can actually ruin the budgets a lot worse than that. Legacy systems, it's something that doesn't get talked about too much in the industry. Whenever you buy a piece of software, whether you're buying it from a major manufacturer or whether you're buying it from a small manufacturer, they will normally build in what they call updates, patches. They will continue to manage that software, they'll continue to monitor it. And if people bring out bugs, or if people bring out things that can attack that software, whoever developed that software will normally provide you with an update to protect you. The issue is that they can't do that forever. So there has to come a point when they stop supporting that software. It's normally a good few years down the line. But if you don't stay updated, if you don't go out and buy the newer piece of software, then what you find is that no longer is that legacy system actually being managed, updated, protected, and therefore you're at a bigger risk and a bigger threat. 5 is insider attacks. You hear of horror stories where it's malicious attack and a disgruntled employee decides to send all your customer data to one of your competitors, or worse, decides to steal it and send it up in competition. But actually it's a lot more frequent than that. It's things just like lack of motivation, people who are overworked, people who are tired. It's amazing how many people can forget to do the very simple things when they're overworked. So insider attacks are not necessarily attacks, so to speak, but they are a threat that you have there. Number 6, lack of talent. This could be people. So it could be you're not going out and actually recruiting the right people to manage your cybersecurity. Or it could be that you're not training the people that are already there with sufficient that they need. And number 7, third-party risks. Probably the one that I talk about the most, if I'm honest, in my job. It's amazing how many companies will come to us and they'll work with us and we'll put fantastic systems in for them with regards to cybersecurity and ISO and everything else. And then we start talking about their suppliers. And when we say to them, you know, you need to be contacting your suppliers and discussing this with them, they're like, why? I don't run that business. Whenever you hear anything on the news, there's been a major data breach. It's not normally the main company that you're hearing. The name on the news article is normally one of the big companies, but actually the data breaches regularly come from one of their suppliers. So it's not just about understanding your risks, it's understanding those that are posed by your third party risks. And the last one, cyber awareness, comes a bit over with regards to lack of talent as well. It's just about training. It's about making people aware. And sometimes people think, is it okay to just do one training session a year or one every 18 months or whatever? I can tell you here, we're doing multiple training sessions per month, and that's for people who live and breathe it every day. So there is nothing wrong in doing multiple training sessions, regularly reminding people. And as I say, even myself, I came very close to clicking on a phishing email only on Monday of this week. So cyber awareness, keeping people aware of exactly what's happening is really prevalent. So that's with regards to threats. I'll pass back to Chris.
Awesome. Right, so a lot of what Peter said there flows nicely into this. So the importance of cybersecurity and actually making a priority of it. Look, we all have the habit, and again, I think one of Peter's points especially touched on it when he's talking about budgets, etc. It's so easy nowadays, right? Post-COVID, everybody is very much of the mindset of, right, okay, how do we grow the business? How do we bring in more money? How do we make that money more profitable? How do we train people to do better at their jobs, increase productivity? But what happens if you built all of that on a pack of cards? Yeah, and that really is what this comes down to. So you do need to prioritize your cybersecurity for growing businesses. Or indeed, if any of you are sitting here going, well, I don't need to grow my business, I'm in a great position. Even more importantly then, if you've already built the thing, then it cannot be built on the top of plastic playing cards. You need to make sure that you're securing it. Good thing is, when it comes to this side of thing now, the cybersecurity side of things, the data and information security, it is now very, very widely recognised and respected by your clients as well. So by doing the cybersecurity side, the data security, you're not only protecting yourselves and protecting your staff, your customers, your clients, yourselves, your families, you're also putting yourself in a great position where you're going to actually be more attractive to clients, current and future. Cyber attacks can result in some pretty bad data breaches, financial losses, reputation damage, which is huge these days, and some pretty horrific legal ramifications, which I'm sure Peter talks to his clients about a lot. Right, so you do need to invest in cybersecurity to safeguard the information that you hold, make sure that you're retaining your customers' trust, and ensure that you're compliant. And the last line there is very comically, did malicious actors target your company? But it's true, right? Peter, probably one of the most expert people I've met in this field, as he's happily admitted to there, nearly got caught the other night. We deal with this type of stuff every single day, and you would not believe the amount of test emails that Citation send out to all employees just to see how diligent we are and whether we report them, what we do with them. We are one of the most secure companies that you will find from a cybersecurity and data security perspective. We still go through multiple training sessions a month to make sure that we're doing the right things. We get multiple test emails. Sometimes they are really good. I must admit, I did get one the other day that actually came from my boss, and I thought, it's not something he would normally send me, and it did actually turn out to be a phishing email, but it is correlatable, if that's the right word, with the world and how good they are at it now. So breaches can effectively shut down your business, and that is not fear-mongering, that is just fact. If things do go badly wrong nowadays, you do have no other recourse. There is only yourselves to deal with it. And this is a very, very, very kind of specific aimed statement at a very specific type of cyber attack. But there are cyber attacks out there, and we've all seen them in the news, that will basically lock up your data. Yeah, there was one not so long ago for an NHS practice in Western Manchester, I believe it was, where they did actually lock up patient records. It's not nice, it's nasty, it's a horrible practice from some evil, despicable people. But unfortunately, we don't live in a world where everybody has the same moral compass. So quite genuinely, how long could you survive without access to the data that you have? Okay, if you want to move on, please, Flora. So building resilience, how do we do it? Right, it's easy enough for us to sit here and say, right, okay, get it done. But how do you do it? Main thing is making sure that you've got the right partners, the right people in place to try and help you make sure that you put the right policies and procedures in place. This is all buzzwords and terminology, right? So I'm not going to read these parrot fashion. I like to speak more kind of human to human. Okay, so what you really want to do is make sure that you've either got the skill in-house or you bring in people like us to help you lay out the right processes and procedures and make sure that you've got the right things in place. Make sure you've got incident response plans. Make sure you've got the right policies in place for your passwords. Peter touched on a great point, and it's something that even I've realised I'm going to speak to clients about more often. Your supply chain. Who are you dealing with and how protected are they? Yeah, it might not be your business, but they hold your details. And if they're not going to the extent that you're going to today, how safe are you with them? And please, in turn to that, please think about what clients think about you now. Okay, because everybody is becoming more and more and more diligent with this. So if you're not doing this now, how well are you protecting your clients? Right, so you need to have the right layouts, the right frameworks, the right policies, procedures, handbooks, everything in place. Peter touched on it nicely. Staff training. You guys will all have and will be some amazing talent within your own businesses, but make sure that they're trained properly. Make sure that they know and they understand their own responsibility to make sure that your business stays safe. Identify vulnerabilities. Again, you could have made this another poll question, right? When's the last time any one of you actually did a vulnerabilities check on the business? Do you know what your vulnerabilities are, where they lie, what problems they could cause, and how easily they could be exploited? And most importantly, make sure that you actually validate those defences. Make sure that somebody checks them out. Make sure they know what they're doing on the back end of it. We flip again, please, Flora. You see your lovely face now.
I was just checking if you wanted people to put the answer to that question in the chat box or not, Chris.
Wouldn't mind if anybody can be bothered. I wouldn't mind. Yeah, if you could say either when you last did it or just the word no if you've never done it.
So that was a vulnerability check in the business. It's not a test,
Not
guys. We're just interested to know, because everybody
so
obviously
interested to
will
know.
be very different, and so absolutely just yeah, be honest. There is no there's no judgment. There's nothing here. Don't
No.
worry. So just
I'm
pop it
well.
in
There's a lovely yes in there.
there.
I'm
Well
not
done.
surprised in the slightest if the majority's on no's. Yeah, like that's the real reason for us to be here, is at the back end of this we can book in business reviews with you and we can help you do this. Yeah, look, I've looked at some of those business names that joined this, and I can happily tell you there's not one business in there that I could do what you do. Peter couldn't do what you do. Flora's a bit more of a jack of all. She does everything. She's better than me and Peter put together, so she might be able to. But I couldn't do anything that you guys do. So why should you be able to do this? So, well, you guys are very kindly doing that. Oh, 5 days ago. Well done, Sarah.
I was
Right.
going to say
Okay.
that's
So
impressive.
I know that's very impressive. Either that, or she knew she was joining the webinar and did it in advance. Right. Okay. So fundamentals of cybersecurity. Okay. So train your workforce, train your systems, certify the business. Right. Really, really is as simple as that. All right. Does everybody know exactly what they're doing? Do they know what they should be doing, when they should be doing it, and even more importantly, why they should be doing it? Yeah. Then test out the systems, make sure that it is doing what it's supposed to do, and then make sure that you're doing the certifications, because without the certifications, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't matter. Peter and I could sit here until the cows come home and we could list off every single thing that we've ever done in the business. It makes no difference. All people want is, are you ISO 27001 certified and are you Cyber Essentials Plus accredited? End of story. Okay. Move on, please, lovely. And back to you, Peter.
Thanks. So, introducing ISO 27001. The first thing I would say, a lot of people ask, where did it come from? How is it written, etc. So, it's actually developed by an organization called the International Organization for Standardization. Being dyslexic, it took me many years to realize that ISO was not the acronym for International Organization of Standardization. But I'm pleased to say the reason is because it's not actually to do with the name. They realized when they wanted to come up with an acronym for the organization that every time it changed countries and got translated into their own languages, the actual acronym would change. So they chose an acronym that comes from the Greek word isos, which means equal. So that's why it's known as ISO. And we don't call it ISO, we call it ISO, because it comes from the Greek word of isos. So how do they come about actually developing the standard? It's developed by a committee of experts. So a committee of experts meet on a quarterly basis every year, meet 4 times to discuss what the current standard is, how they want to change it, what they need to change, how they're going to deal with that. 27001 itself was originally published back in 2005. It does actually date back to 1995 when it was a British standard, 7799 actually in them days. But it was first published in 2005. It then got rewritten in 2013 and then recently rewritten again and republished in 2022. So anybody that we're working with currently now who comes to us for ISO, we're working with the 2022 standard. So what is it? It's a set of standards. It's a documentation that actually breaks down your business into a number of different areas, a number of different activities. And then what it does, it provides you with a framework. It provides you with a framework that allows you to then build on that framework and work within it to help you with your cybersecurity. I regularly get asked who can achieve 27001. You know, do we have to be an IT company? Do we have to have a certain number of people? The answer to all those questions is no, you can be absolutely anybody. In the 11, 12 years I've been implementing companies with 27001, the largest one I've ever worked with had 140 offices in different countries in the world. And the smallest was a one-man band who didn't even own a computer. So it's not specifically about tech or IT. You don't need an IT manager. What it's talking about is information security. So yes, these days a lot of that is to do with tech. It is to do with information in the cloud or in your computer system or in your USB stick, but it's also about human element. It's also about physical security. So it can be any size, it can be any sector. But what the framework is all designed around is risk-based. So it is the same document no matter how big a company you are. The key to this is about making sure that it's implemented correctly. And that's where we come in, being able to make sure that we implement it in a way that allows you to then operate within it in a way that's right for you. So Flora, if you can just move to the next slide for me. So when I was planning for this webinar and I saw this slide come up, I thought actually there's 4 stages to this process. So I'll talk about the pre-stage that needs to be done. So the pre-stage is literally reaching out to us. Myself, Chris, we deal with clients on a daily basis who are reaching out and saying, how do I do this? What do I do? So in some ways, it's actually a 4-stage process. The first bit is putting your hand up and wanting to commit, wanting to talk to us to understand where you move forward. Once you've done that bit, once the contracts are signed, it is simply a 3-step process. So the first step is somebody like myself or one of my colleagues will give you a call. We'll spend anything from 3 days to potentially 4 to 5 days working with you. We'll understand exactly what you do as a business, how you currently do it. We'll put together a gap analysis report that says each area of the standard. Are you already doing something that's proficient, that's compliant, or do you need to tweak something you're already doing, or do you need to invest in actually developing something from scratch? So we work with you over that time. We produce the gap analysis, we produce all your management system, we produce everything for you. The second stage is you actually completing the gap analysis. Now, often a lot of clients will cringe at this point and say, how much work am I going to have to do? Well, I can tell you that the way that we've streamlined the process and we've simplified it and we've made sure that we're only implementing systems that are right for you, the amount of work that you need to do between parts 1 and 3 is quite minimal normally. What's also important to know is that we don't leave you out there in the ocean sailing on your own. We make sure that you've got everything you need to complete those. Part of my job is actually contacting people in between parts 1 and 3 to actually offer additional support, offer technical support, and we make sure that we hold your hand all the way through that process. And then part 3, it's often actually known as your stage 2 audit. It's actually called your pre-certification audit. Myself or one of my colleagues, not the person who worked with you initially, but somebody different, and we'll give you an audit. They'll compile an audit on the organisation. They'll look at all the gap analysis, they'll look at what needed to be completed before certification, and they'll audit that those requirements are complete. At the end of that day, it's relaxed time, it's feet up for a little bit, because it is congratulations. You know, you're over the threshold, you'll receive your certificate normally the next day. What I do say to people though is actually that's when the real work starts. It is about making sure that you run your business within the standard. It's not just about badge collecting. As I call it, I used to be a Boy Scout and I used to spend every single Friday at Scouts trying to get another badge so that if I could fill one arm and I had to go into the other, it was great. 27,001 is not about that. It's not about badge collecting. It's not about just getting a certificate for the wall. It's about instilling how you're going to operate as a business. But we have simplified it as much as possible, and we make sure that we deliver it in a way that's right for you. Over to you, Chris.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Right. Okay. So, Flora's face popped up there. You want to say something first?
No, that's Flora? Okay. Sorry, I was just checking it's all moved over.
Beautiful. No, all excellent. Right. Okay. So, Cyber Essentials Plus has basically come to the forefront as the main government-backed recommended accreditation for cyber security. Excuse me, my apologies. In the UK. So it is now government backed. So you will find that when you're doing government tenders, so if you're tendering for kind of local authority, UK government jobs and tenders, through their platform, one of the main things they will ask for will be Cyber Essentials Plus. I'll get into what plus means in a minute, by the way. And you'll also find on the back of what Peter's just said that the 27,001 kind of goes hand in hand, although covering different things. So the scheme is used to demonstrate that organisations have the appropriate security and defences in place against common cyber attacks and data breaches. Very much similar to what Peter just said. Yes, it is a kind of set of standards, but the implementation of it is based on your own business. Okay, so you're not going to have things pushed upon you and try to put in place things that just have absolutely nothing to do with you. Okay, it works by evaluating a company's technology defenses to determine current vulnerabilities and risk level. Again, biggest question you get at this point is we don't have a clue what our vulnerabilities are. We don't even have a clue how to identify what our vulnerabilities are. That's fine. That's where we come in. Okay, so Flora, if you can move to the next slide, because quite comically, Peter and I had the same thought and we hadn't even spoken to each other about it. So Peter is absolutely bang on. This is a 4-stage process. Okay, so first stage will be towards the end of this webinar. I like the way you say it better, Peter, webinar. Very nicely said. But towards the end of this, we will have a point where you can ask for a business review. So the first stage is putting your hand up and saying, right, okay, fine. Either you've been thinking about it already and this has been the jolt that you needed, or actually we've never thought about this, but the points you've raised really do make sense. You put your hand up, you say, I'd like a business review, whether it's for the ISO 27001 or the Cyber Basic and Plus, it'll be myself that you'll speak to if you're a citation client. And we'll do the boring bit where we go through the business, work out what you need, do the commercials, then get things in place. At that point, we'll issue you with a self-assessment questionnaire. Okay, so that part really is what it says on the tin. Okay, so it is a questionnaire about your cybersecurity, what you've got in place at the minute and what you need. And we will literally mark that. Comically, we're talking about exam time. I think my daughter up the stairs just fell over when I said that because she's just finished her exams, so hers will be getting marked somewhere in the country just now. But you're at that point, your questionnaire will be assessed by one of our expert assessors and will notify you of any amendments that you need to make. We'll then mark the assessment, and once a pass is awarded, we'll then issue your certification the next day. Okay, so, excuse me, if you move on one more, Flora. So, it says here there's 2 options, okay? Now, we actually offer them combined now, so we don't offer the Cyber Essentials Basic on its own. We offer the Plus and Basic because with the current climate, with the way things are moving, you really do need to have both of them. So 2 different options, Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus, that really determine the security level of the business. So Cyber Essentials is very much dependent on the information that you provide in the self-assessment. And it is very much just marked on the answers to your questions and given a pass or a fail. Whereas the Cyber Essentials Plus is a lot more heavily respected and a lot more heavily recognised, and it is the part that is kind of pushed by the UK government and looked for in the main from a tendering perspective, because at that point we take your answers and we actually go and check them. So we do on-site internal and external vulnerability tests. Most are done online now. I know it says on-site, but very rarely will we actually come out and chap your door and see if you've got locks on the door. It is mostly done online, but it is a properly determined risk and vulnerability check then to see if you're actually doing what you need to be doing. Okay, so this does result in an in-depth evaluation providing proper methods of remediation, and when you pass that, you'll be awarded the Cyber Essentials Plus certification. So full process, Cyber Essentials Basic and Plus booked at the same time. We give you the questionnaire for you to fill in, check your answers, we'll let you know any remediation works. When you've passed that, we'll move to the Cyber Essentials Plus, where we will actually do proper checking, proper penetration testing, proper risk assessment and risk level authentication, and give you the remediation to fix, then get you passed and certified. Okay, can move on, Flora, if you don't mind. Awesome. Right, so Peter and I will split this bit, so I'll go first, as I'm already talking, if that's okay, Pete. So Essentials prevents 80% of common cyber attacks. Okay, so the whole point of doing this is to give you a roadmap to success. What does success look like? Success looks like not having your business ruined or any of your clients or customers or employees or yourselves affected by cyber attacks. So having the right measures in place will prevent up to 80% of them and give you a direct road to success. Excuse me. Helps you stay compliant with GDPR. Again, a few years back was the biggest buzzword of all time. Okay, it might not be said every day anymore, but it is still massively, massively, massively prevalent in all of our industries. Helps you gain an understanding of your actual risk level. Yeah, we saw when a few of you were kind enough to say whether you'd actually done vulnerability checks or not. There was a few no's, there was a few yeses, there was a couple of very impressive answers in there, but this will help you gain an understanding of your actual risk level. Having the actual certifications and accreditations displayed and shown shows that you have got a commitment to data security, which is worth its weight in gold when you're tendering for business or recruiting the right level of staff. It gives you an affordable security tool. Right? Cybersecurity is the new web development. Right? When websites first hit the market and you weren't looking to advertise in the newspaper or the yellow pages anymore, web design and search engine optimization were the new voodoo, and people were charging whatever they wanted for it. Cybersecurity is exactly the same. Right? You've got people out there quoting you exorbitant amounts of money to do absolutely nothing. This is an affordable UK government recognised security tool. And you can actually benefit from insurance discounts as well. And if anybody asks how much that discount is, I'll send you to your insurer because I've no idea. But it will directly impact, or it can directly impact your actual insurance premiums because you've got better security in place. On you go, Peter.
Thanks, Chris. Looking at the benefits to ISO 27001, many of them, as you'll probably appreciate, are actually very common with regards to the Cyber Essentials benefits. But specifically, keeping confidential information secure. So this isn't just about cyber, this is about all information. I mentioned earlier about physical documentation or documentation in lots of different places. It's about keeping everything secure. Minimizes the risk of security breaches. The framework that you work within with 27001 means that you've considered all of your risks. You've identified every threat with regards to those risks, and then you've actually come up with, or you've documented exactly how you're going to control it, how you're going to control it today, how you want to be able to control it in the future. And the fact that that is a continual process going round and round each year, getting better and better, means that you will minimize your risk of security breaches. Better legal compliance. There are so many rules and regulations around. I often turn around to clients when I'm doing consulting work, and I always use the analogy. If you're driving down a road and you don't know the speed limit, there's a good chance you might get caught speeding. Well, it's exactly the same with legal compliance when we're talking about information security. There are so many pieces of legislation out there. One of the things that we have to do as a part of the 27001 work that we do is to identify what are the laws that affect you in relation to information security, and then actually document how you're going to remain compliant with them, how they affect you, how you remain compliant. So by working within 27001, you will ensure better legal compliance. Provides clients with peace of mind. Comes back to what I said before. It is all about contractors. It is all about suppliers. It is all about whoever the third party is that might have your data. And that works the other way. That's your suppliers, that's your customers looking at you and saying, actually, they've implemented 27001, so we trust that they're going to look after our information properly, that they are secure. So it gives them that peace of mind. Sharpen your edge and win more business. I'd actually potentially even change that and say it opens up new markets. It's not just about helping you win new business, it's about opening up a completely different book of work. Things like education, things like government, things like care. There are certain industries in this country now who are saying, you're going to, as if we award you a contract, you're going to have so much personal information. What we need is you to have 27001 before we're even going to start a discussion with you. So actually having it does sharpen your edge, does help you win more business, but actually gives you a completely new fish pond to swim in. And the last one is enhance your organization's reputation. I've mentioned before, it's not about badge collecting. But as badges go, it's probably one of the most prestigious. People know that this isn't something you just buy and stick on the wall, that you've had to actually work really hard for this. And because of that, it does very much enhance the organization's reputation. Do you want to move on, Flora?
Awesome. Okay, look, right. Just to kind of cement that last point there, I couldn't agree more with that, especially with the way tenders and PQQs are going nowadays. Having these in place will open a lot of doors for you. I work with a huge amount of clients that tender towards the local authority contracts, education, schools, colleges, nurseries, healthcare, social care, everything like that. Anything that you could ever possibly consider where you might accidentally come in contact with a vulnerable group, vulnerable people, or details about vulnerable people, you're going to need these. So it opens up a huge new door. Right, some of you will be reading these words and going, oh God, please don't go into this level of detail. Don't worry, that's exactly what I thought as well, and I won't. All right. The whole point of this bit is to basically say, look, every industry and every part of business has constant and never-ending updates. Okay, there are some prevalent ones that are coming, but more importantly is the fact that when you are working with us on these things, we will keep you up to date on things that are coming up, and we will help you kind of work in and make sure that things are going well. So one of the biggest ones probably coming soon is the Artificial Intelligence Act. Right? Something had to happen with this at some point soon. Right? The amount of people using ChatGPT and different AI programs to design documents, paperwork, presentations. My God, I saw someone the other day that had literally, I hope they didn't submit it, but they'd completed their entire thesis using ChatGPT. It's madness what people are doing. So there had to be something come out soon to police this, because nobody, I don't care what anyone says, nobody knows whether what's happening with that data or how it's used in the end. So there is a legislation of some sorts that will be coming for that. Cyber Resilience Act and Information Security Directive expected to come into effect by 2024. Again, something that will need to be looked at. NCSC and ICO are collaborating on activities to improve UK's cyber resilience following the rise in spear phishing attacks. Spear phishing, exactly what Peter said earlier on in the call, physically directed phishing attacks that are aimed at you personally rather than a group. This is a really good one because it's good to see that they are actually looking at this. And recommendations come all the time, but there is one looking to actually transfer responsibility from the Home Office to the Cabinet Office to putting in place more legislations to reform computer misuse acts. Again, awesome, probably not directly impactful on any of you today, but the point of this slide is to say that there are changes, there are updates. This is an ever-evolving landscape that we all need to keep on top of. Okay, going to move on, Flora? Okay, right. So, Peter, you want to do your 27?
Yeah, I'll run through the 27 ones. So the key takeaways from today with regards to 27001 is how will implementing 27001 help you? The one thing I do talk to a lot of customers about is culture. It's probably the hardest thing to change. It's really easy to buy a piece of new software and implement it, or it's really easy to buy a better lock for the door or buy a new, locked cabinet for your information. But actually changing people's behaviours, changing the culture, making them aware of what's happening, is something that's really difficult to do. And 27001 very much gives you that framework to help you do that. So that's probably the biggest takeaway that I would say from 27001. It is risk-based. Don't think that you have to be a massive organisation with very, very large IT departments and huge budgets in place to put technological controls in place. You don't. It's all about risk. If you're only one or two people with a couple of laptops, then the way that it's implemented is going to be a lot different to somebody who's a huge company. Reputation and brand. This is in some ways the opposite side of the coin of what I mentioned earlier. If you've got the fact that someone's got 27001, it's an unbelievable positive and it identifies that everybody's doing everything right, you've also got the negative side of it. If you don't have it in place, then people are going to look at you and say, we don't really want to risk putting our information with you. We don't want to risk working with you. And the last one is to mitigate security threats. Security threats we can't get rid of. I talk about all the time. I look at risk assessments and we talk about what is the likelihood of something happening and what is the impact if it ever did. And it doesn't matter how good you are, there are always going to be a residual threat and a residual risk at the end. What the standard does is it makes sure that you can mitigate them wherever possible, and it also makes sure that it promotes the thought process to continually increase that mitigation and reduce it. So that's the key things that I would like you to take away from 27001. Chris?
Awesome. Yeah, very, very, very similar. The wording on the slide's different, but it's a very, very similar takeaway. I think the main thing to take away from this today is whatever the plan is for your business, whether the plan is to stay as you are and be just as successful tomorrow as you are today, it's best to get the ISO 27 and the cybersecurity or the Cyber Essentials Plus embedded quickly. If your plan from today is to go and tender for business, bring in more work, open more doors, make more money, horrible way to word it, but let's be honest, that's what business is about. We're here to provide a service, make people's lives better, but also make a living in the back end of it. Again, it's time to get this sort of stuff in place. Key takeaways from the actual Cyber Essentials product itself is that it gives ongoing vulnerability management programs and annual penetration testing. penetration testing is just a funny way of saying, or a complicated way of saying, constantly checking to see how easy you are to hack or phish or have a cyber breach. Okay. Part of the system does annual penetration testing to make sure that every year we recheck, we recertify, and we make sure you're still doing the same things. With that, make sure you're implementing effective cyber awareness training. Again, this isn't a chicken and egg situation, right? Doing these certifications and accreditations are what will tell you what you need to have in place. When Peter's doing the gap analysis, he's able to actually pinpoint and say, here's the bits you're missing. Same goes with Cyber Essentials. When you do the first questionnaire, we're able to then pinpoint and say, these are the bits you need to fix. And this one, I would slightly change the wording of. It's not a case of complementing ISO with cyber, right? Yes, they do have overlap, but they do different things. So my takeaway for you with that would be make sure that we're doing them both. Okay. The ISO 27001 all inbuilt, perfect in-house manuals on everything you're supposed to do. And the cybersecurity side of things will make sure that from an external perspective, the house that you've just built with Peter stays safe. Okay. It's not about complementing or doing one then the other or the other then one. Make sure that if you're going to do it and take this seriously, that you do both at the same time, and we do them both perfectly for you with a certified cyber partner, who would of course be us. Okay. You want to move on, Flora? On yourself, Peter?
Yeah, sure. So why work with us? I won't sit there and read out the slides. You're all going to receive a copy of the recording if you so wish. So I won't read it out word for word. Reality is it comes down to the three things. So we do have consultancy built in. That means that we don't just give you a document and ask you to phone us when you're ready. We actually hold your hand. We take you all the way through. We teach you, we mentor you, we assist you, we build your system with you. This is probably the biggest thing that I would say to any client, is making sure that you're working with a consultancy who understands your business is really important. The standard, as I mentioned, is the same document, no matter who you are, no matter how big your business. And it is far too easy for people to try and generate their own management system or buy a system off the internet and then try and implement it themselves. And what you find is that that system's probably not right for you. It probably makes your life absolutely terrible moving forwards to try and remain compliant. What we do is we make sure that we build you a system that's simple, compliant, but is right and fit for purpose for you. The second one is part of something bigger. You know, I spend the majority of my time working solely in the ISO department of the organization. Chris actually works across all of the different areas, but we do work very much with each other on a regular basis, all the different departments in the company. So we are part of something bigger. If during a conversation about ISO, we talk about one of the requirements within ISO, for example, is pre-screening. What checks do you do for employees when they join? If that's something that people can't work with or they haven't worked with before, it's something we can help with. If it's HR, if it's employment law, if it's health and safety, we are part of something bigger now, and we're able to offer you lots of pieces to that jigsaw. And the last one is technology. We operate through a platform called Atlas. It is available to all of our clients. It's something that we work on absolutely continuously. The amount of developers that are working on it full time to continually improve this for our clients and bring new templates and new ways of working and making their life easier with dashboards is quite remarkable in how quickly that's moving forward. So the consultancy, the bigger picture, and the technology are the main reasons why I would say work with Citation ISO. Over to you, Chris.
Awesome, thank you. So exactly the same as Peter, I'm not going to sit and read these word for word either. You'll get these and you can read through them if you wish. But the reasons are exactly the same because, as Peter said, part of something bigger, we all work together, right? So I work across the whole group. I specialise in the ISO side and the Cyber Essentials Plus side. So I get to work with all types of clients through all of the group companies, and I get to work with all of the different consultants and representatives from all the different business units and business groups. So the reasons are almost identical, which is quite comical. So we are experts in cybersecurity, over 20 years of experience in the industry, and we have all of the accreditations. Right? I think this is very, very, very important that we don't expect you to do something we're not doing. Right. We are to ISO 27001 and 9001 certified, CREST registered. We're Cyber Essential certification body, NCSC and CPD approved training providers, and we have got some of the best support structures in any industry. I completely and utterly defy anyone to say that anything is missing from that side. I think the biggest thing that for me when you're working with us is that we are genuinely a one-stop shop. Right, so if at the end of this you do request a business review, it'll be me that will do it. If you're a citation client, it'll then go to Peter, or one of his lovely team who will do the gap analysis. It will go, everything stays in-house. Nothing is outsourced, nothing is passed on. And at every stage of the operation, all of us will know where you're at. I'll then stay to manage the account with you and make sure that everybody's doing everything they're supposed to do. And it all fits nicely. I think we've all had experiences where things are disjointed. You're phoning customer services, they don't know who you are, so they pass you to someone else. It's a cold transfer, you're lost again. That's not going to happen with us. And again, as Peter alluded to, the state-of-the-art portal, Atlas, is just fantastic to use. And it really, really, really does give you a secure package with all the fundamentals for cybersecurity. No real need to go into the last slide. Yes, of course, we're UK based. Everything that we do is within the business units and the business groups. The biggest takeaways from me for why you should work with us is that we will keep everything under the one house for you. We really are experts in what we're trying to make sure that you're experts in, and we'll make sure that we build and fold everything in properly and fully support it with you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Chris, and thank you very much, Peter, as well. Just to follow on there from what both Peter and Chris said, and just to highlight to you that we are part of one big brand family, who you may well have heard of other areas of our family, or may well come across them in the future if you haven't. And things like Chris just touched on there, things like UCheck and various other ones as well. So they're there, and we are one big family, as they say, and it's all in-house, and we all work very, very closely together. And I think that's the key thing, is when you're part of something like that, then it all does flow and work together nicely, which is the easiest thing and the best thing for you from an employer's point of view. Okay, so I hope that's been helpful. I just want to ask you a couple of questions. One is, do you currently have any security standards or certification in place? Just again, interested to know. I know some people have alluded to or said that they are got a few things in place, but I'm just interested to see who has what in place at the moment. And we're going to go on as well and take any questions. Now, there's been a few there, and I've got a couple that have come in for people who couldn't join us today as well. But the questions that come in, I think it's important that we read out. So again, everybody benefits from that question and answer. So I think we'll just go on with that now. I think let me see what we've got here. I know you've answered a couple along the way as well, Chris. And you can, I know a couple of people have also messaged me directly and asked about the recording, which you will be able to request in the follow-up, and that'll give you the slides and the audio, so you'll not missed anything. If there's anything you want to recap on as well, you can easily do that. So that is easy enough to do that. And Shireen, I see there, Chris has answered to you directly that you'll pick up with Shireen as well regarding gap analysis and things like that as well. So that's grand. Now, a question that has come in is, how do we go about setting up ISO 27001 and Cyber Essentials? So,
awesome.
Chris.
Yeah, awesome. Excuse me. And to be fair, I can answer Shireen's question in that one as well. So first stage would be pop into the chat that you want to book a business review with myself. And what we'll do is I'll set up a business review with you probably on Tuesday night, just given how close we are to the bank holiday. call or a Teams call. We'll sit down, we'll do a business review, we'll work out what you need, what your plans are, what you're actually doing, because it might not be that you do need specific ISOs, or it might be that you need other ones. We'll do a proper business review, we'll work out what you need, what your plans are. I'll then take you through the actual process that Peter very eloquently talked about today, because to answer Shireen's question, we don't have a cost specifically for just a gap analysis. Peter did allude to it as well. We do the full service. So we do the gap analysis, the presentation back. We then help fill the gaps. We support. We do all the kind of the management system for you. And then we get you through the audit and certification as well. So there is no fixed cost. It's not like that. It's not an off-the-shelf one-size-fits-all. It's all dependent on your business and what you want to be doing. So in the business review, we'll work out what you need. I'll take you through the process. We'll then get some quotes put together and do the commercials. And then we'll get you guys booked in for the questionnaire and the consultation. So if you do want a business review, just pop your business name in the chat with your name and either want a business review or business review. And I can see Shireen has just said something there about it. So if you want to get that booked in, drop it in the chat and we'll make sure we get you booked in for it.
Absolutely fantastic. Now, Paul said that it feels like the weight of responsibility will sit within IT functions. Is this the case?
I'm happy to answer that, Paul. Thanks for the question. It's something that we do get asked every single time, in fairness, when we talk about 27001. So I'll answer it specifically for 27001 first. Within 27001, the management system is split into two areas. So part of it is the what's known as the management standard, and part of it is what's known as the Annex A controls. The Annex A controls is a list of 93 controls, and many of those controls are actual technical functions. So they would normally land with, well, if they're even applicable to you, but if they are applicable to you, then they will land with whoever the person is that manages them. And quite frequently, if you do have a larger organization or IT functions, then quite a few of them would land with them. With regards to the management side of the standard, a lot less so. A lot less so. It's not really IT. And in fact, we quite often find where organizations have made the IT manager responsible for the entire ISO, and then they actually struggle because they have lots of input for part of it, but not the other. So it is across the business. It is very much things like HR, it is operations, it is physical security, as well as IT. With regards to Cyber Essentials, that is more so because Cyber Essentials is more looking at just the actual technical, what you're doing. The technical controls, so that is a lot more IT function, but from an ISO basis, it is very much across the board. Everyone shares the responsibility there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Peter. That's excellent. Another one that has come up is, what is the difference between ISO 27001 and 27002?
How long do we have?
Not long enough.
No, the 27001 and 27002 are two documents that you can purchase. They're ISO documents. 27001 is the standard that you get certified against. So that lists all the things that you as an organization have to be able to demonstrate, or with regards to the Annex A, you have to be able to demonstrate that they're not applicable. So that's the one that you get certified against. It's the one that actually tells you what the requirements are. 27002 is what's known as the implementation guidance, and it's the implementation guidance, but only covers the Annex A controls. So it only covers the 93 controls. The reason that it's two separate documents is it does actually date back to 1995, when it used to be BS 7799. Right. There used to be 7799 Part 1 and 7799 Part 2. And one was a document that you got certified to, and one was the implementation guidance to teach you how to do it, or to help you what you might want to consider to it when you implement it. And that's continued through each iteration, but now it's known as 27001, 27002. So you'll never see a certificate to 27002. It is only implementation guidance, not a certificated standard.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Peter. Okay, I think that's covered most of the questions there. Any other questions that have come directly to yourselves, Peter or Chris?
There's none directly, but there's a few that have popped up that I can answer in about 30 seconds, if that's okay, because I
Okay.
know we're shy on time there.
Yep.
So, Gerard, you've asked, do you have templates of the gap analysis you could share? We'd recommend, if it is something you want to look at doing the business review, we wouldn't really kind of share templates or anything. It is, as Peter alluded to a few times, it is very business centric for you. So if the ISO or the cyber is something you seriously want to look at as a business, it would be best to get the business review booked. Chris, already have contract with you for ISO 27001. Can we please also discuss Cyber Essentials Plus? Yes, of course we can. I think, if I'm right, I'm going to be a wee bit OCD, but I think I am right in saying that, yes, I do have your business name there already. Yes, so I'll get in touch with you hopefully this afternoon. If not, that will be Tuesday. Shireen, you've mentioned what about the business review? So I'm assuming that, and you've asked, is there a cost associated with the business review? So no, there's absolutely no cost involved within the business review. Business review will just be to work out what you need, what your plans are, and put together a proposal for you. And then it's entirely up to you on the back of that if you want to take us up on that offer. So if you do want to get a business review booked in, just pop a wee note in there.
Shireen says sign her up then.
Cool. Okay, I'll make sure we do. If you want to just pop your wee business name in there, Shireen, as well, if you don't mind, just so I can find your account. All right.
Fantastic, yeah. And as Chris said there, by all means, please do, if you want to get that booked in, guys, just pop your details into the chat box. I'm more than happy to get that arranged for you. And even if you want to give us an idea which day next week might suit you better from Tuesday onwards, then that would be perfect, because I know it'll obviously be different for everybody. Okay, I hope that has been helpful. We've covered a lot of ground. Thank you so much, Peter, and thank you so much, Chris, because I know we've covered a lot of ground today, and how interesting and in depth. And I've listened to these gentlemen on numerous occasions, and I always learn something new. So, and I'm sure you have too. So I'm confident it's been valuable for you. But thank you for joining us. I'm just going to ask you one more question, because I like to ask you a question. What would you like to learn more about? So please do let us know. And Christina, I can see you coming in there, and Mandy as well. So that is absolutely perfect. Keep popping those details in, guys, and we'll get arrangements made to speak to you individually, get the recordings out to you if that's what you want, and also get your review organised as well. So not a problem to do that. We'll keep a wee check on there for you all coming in for that too. That's perfect. Great. Anything further from yourself, Peter?
No, nothing from me. Just want to thank everyone for the time today. Hopefully you did learn something, and feel free to reach out at any point, whether it's about 27001, whether it's about Cyber Essentials. If you've got any queries about any other ISOs, feel free to reach out directly, and I can come back with any questions.
Fabulous, thanks. And anything further from yourself, Chris?
No, just the exact same. Thank you all so much for joining today. I know how big a deal it is to take that amount of time out of your day these days. So massively, massively appreciate you doing it, and really looking forward to getting a chat with quite a few of you, I hope, and being able to help you in the future.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And we can see there that 68% of you would like to know more about ISO and about Cyber Essentials. So we'll certainly pick that up with you. Absolutely no problem at all. And as I say, if there's a specific day that works best for you, you know how your diary's sitting next week, then let us know. From Tuesday through to Friday, we're more than happy if you just pop in whether it's an AM or a PM or and whatever day, then we can certainly pick that up with you. No problem at all, guys. So to get that in place for you. But thank you for joining us. I will leave the last question there open for a second or two more, and the chat box for a minute or so. Just if you do want to, I know you might be checking your diary as we speak, so if you want to pop in a certain time and date there, then please do that, and I will leave it open just now, and we will pick it up. We'll stay on for a minute or so. If there's any further questions, don't hesitate to pop them into the chat box there. We are not racing away, so happy to take them, no problem at all. But thank you again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day. And I hope it's much sunnier than where you are than where I am in Scotland, where it is pouring with rain. So,
All right, you and me both.
so let's hope somebody's not got a rainy day. Thanks, guys, and thank you for all the thank yous that are coming in. Much appreciated for Peter and Chris doing such a fabulous job as ever. So thank you very much. It's how much you can cram into 1 hour.
I know, it's crazy. The hour just disappears, doesn't it?
Sounds like a long time, and then before you know it, you're
No,
yeah, we're
not
halfway
at
through
all.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, Alan, we will check that is in the diary.
Oh, what one was that? Sorry.
Or Alan said they believe you're dealing with his business already, so we will
Oh, right,
check
okay.
that. No problem at all. Great, thanks, guys. Thank you. Lots of thank yous, much appreciated. And we will pick up on what you want to learn more about as well. So we'll keep an eye on that and make sure that, again, we pick that up with you individually. No problem at all.
Yeah, all the ones that I've said the interest will be passed over, get picked up on either today or Tuesday.
Perfect. Okay. So, yeah, 65% would like to know about both. So we'll ensure that happens. Great. Okay. There's no further questions then. I will bring it to an end. Thank you very much for joining us. I hope it has been helpful and worthwhile. And we look forward to speaking to you very, very soon. And thanks again to Peter and Chris. Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.